Good day, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome to The Backbone, the podcast where common sense still makes sense. I'm your host, The Backbone. And if I seem a little off today, I have been moving from my current residence to another residence, and I've been moving all day, and I am just exhausted. But I had to do a podcast. I have to continue doing this because it's something that it's becoming an addiction for me. I hope you are all doing well. And gentlemen, it's a sick world, and it's only getting sicker. And we need to stick together more so than ever. And today we're going to dedicate our podcast to Pope Francis. Ciao to Pope Francis, who passed away Easter Monday at the age of 88. He did not look well at all uh, on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday, when he gave the blessing to the crowd in St. Mark's Square. He really did look like it was the bottom of the ninth for him, and he expired the next day. There are lots of people. There are lots of theories about Francis regarding his papacy. I'm not going to get into any sort of conspiracy theory with the whole Klaus Schwab retiring and Pope Francis dying around the same weekend. That's all nonsense. We are going to talk about the man himself. Now, let's be honest, he was a rock star for a lot of people, a very progressive pope. He believed in allowing migrants into Western countries, with richer Western countries. He did have some unusual uh, theories. He did allow, he allowed those. I think they were from Argentina or Mexico or Central America somewhere. Those dancers to come in, and they had these like their pagan gods that they were showing, or whatever gods that they were showing at the Vatican, which was, people were just enraged by that. Uh, he did uh, he did condone same-sex marriages, even though he didn't bless them at all or say that they're right, but he did preach that love is love, right? He was pretty uh, pro-gay, and he was a guy who believed that the Vatican should be part of Davos and the EU and the UN. He was a globalist pope, let's be honest. But he passed away at the age of 88. I think he did some pretty good things. He's a Vatican II homeboy, and he, listen, he was a progressive pope, and he came in at the time when Barack Obama was president in his second term. Trudeau became prime minister of Canada. Merkel was prime minister of Germany. Um, Holland was prime minister or president of France. So he came in during a time of tremendous progression. And we have here from I believe this is this is from the Vatican News, which we will use for educational and informational purposes only. Here they have their article on the Pope and his death on Easter Monday. In Italy, they call it Pasqualetta, I think they call it. It's little Easter. It's when the families all get together and they go out for lunch and they go take picnics and they go enjoy each other, because it's a time when you can finally relax. Holy Week for Christians, especially for Catholics, can be very stressful. Yeah, it's like it's that last, it's rounding third for Lent, so you can finally, if you gave up cigarettes for 40 days, you can finally have that cigarette. If you gave up alcohol or whatever it is, you can finally do that next week, and that week is here. But Holy Week is pretty intense. I volunteered at my local church for a couple of years, and the priests were always very like, "Arr," it's like it's pretty much the Super Bowl 7 days in a row. So for well, the Super Bowl, but um, it's a very intense time of year. It's the holiest time of year, and it's a very controversial time of year. But Yeah, Francis survived it. He goes on Easter Monday at the age of 88. Would love to know what your comments are about Francis. Um, was he a good pope? I I I I mean, I don't know how to gauge that. I don't know how you determine whether a guy is good or not. I mean, again, he had some very non-traditional, non-conservative views, and we'll talk about the, uh, the election of the new pope, which is coming up, I believe, and don't quote me on this because I am not a church expert. I am Catholic, but I'm not well, I'm probably a cafeteria Catholic at best. I believe the conclaves or the voting starts 14 to 21 days after the Pope is interned, so entombed. So I think it happens around that time. But you already see guys are jockeying for position, and there's a few popes. There's a Cardinal Sarah. I'm sorry. There's a few cardinals who are already jockeying for position. There's the African Cardinal Sarah. He's old. He's 70. He's 79, but he's conservative, and people may think that that's a good thing. That he's conservative and old, so he doesn't. He's probably going to be dead within 10 years. But they're saying he's a favorite. I think a lot of people are saying he's a favorite because he's black, and they want to see a black pope. The progressives. There's also another cardinal named Pizzaballa. I think he's like the lieutenant of Jerusalem. Very conservative guy, Italian, which is uh, a plus, and a very knowledgeable dude with canon. The problem with him is he's 50. I think he's younger than me. So I don't think that the Cardinals want a guy who's going to be around for 30, 40, or maybe even with modern medicine, 50 years. I mean, you could be looking at a 100-year-old pope at one point. There's another cardinal called Parolin who is pretty much Francis 2.0, and the American, the North American, South American, and um, I think it's oceanic, like Australia, New Zealand, those guys over there. They tend to vote for the progressive or more liberal popes or cardinals, whereas the Europeans are kind of split. But the Asian and African continents are very conservative. They're probably more traditional than the Western world's uh, cardinals because they're newbies and they learned the old way. Some people may think that they learned the right way. I think they learned the right way. But we'll do pick that pope at a later time. Francis, his tenure was 12 years. I think that's a good time for him. I think that's a good. You can't do too much damage. Um, but the one thing about Francis that I'll always remember was I think this happened about maybe 6, 7 years ago, and he was taking questions from I think it was World Family Day or something like that, and a little boy wanted to ask him a question, but he broke down and started crying. And so Francis invited the boy up to the stage there, and the boy couldn't ask his question out loud. So Francis asked him to tell him in his ear, and the little boy did. And the little boy cried, and Francis asked the little boy for permission to ask, can I tell the crowd what you asked me, the question that you asked me? And the little boy gave him permission. And the little boy's father had just passed away, and the little boy was concerned, and he asked Pope Francis, "Hey, is my dad going to heaven, or is God going to forsake him for being an atheist?" And you know, I thought Francis handled it brilliantly. He told him that God doesn't abandon his children for their way of thinking. Now, remember, the father was an atheist, but he baptized all four of his kids. Very important. But Francis made the point to say that God's not going to abandon you because you made a mistake on earth. He doesn't do that. That's an atheist way of thinking. Oh, if you screw up, God's gonna hold you to it, and you're not gonna get to the pearly gates. No, that's just not the way it is. The God of the New Testament is the most forgiving, loving being in, in all the universe, and all the universes. So he made it a point to tell that boy that God would never abandon his father. He would not, shut his father out, and that his father is probably in heaven waiting for him. And I thought it was a beautiful moment. Call me a fruit, but whatever. But I thought it was a very beautiful moment for that boy. He finally got some peace, and for the crowd there, and for all of us who were able to see it. Um, but what's next for the church? Like we said, I'll save that for another podcast when we find out once we get all the funeral rites done, which will take about a week because they lie him in state, and then they do the prayers, and they all do all that good stuff. Every world leader will be there, though. That goes to show you how powerful the Pope is. Every world leader will be there, and we'll go over with how the conclave works. I'm going to look up things. Um, so I don't give you any type of misinformation. Or if you guys know anything more than you probably know a whole lot more than me, some of you, leave it in the comments, please, and share it. But yeah, audio to Pope Francis. He tried his best. I think he did. I think he was okay. I would like to see a more conservative Pope in there because I think the church needs it. And I think the church needs to go back to basics, and that means putting a guinea in there. Get some conservative Italian in there, and just change everything. Just get things settled. Get things settled. I don't know if this guy Sarah has enough votes to do it. Uh, I'll go over the votes. I got a vote breakdown. I was looking it up today, um, of how it breaks down, how the Cardinals vote. But Europe is of course the dominant factor. They have 53 Cardinals, 53 votes. Africa only has like 17 or 18, and they're going to need a coalition with Asia to to get Sarah in there because the Americas are not going to vote for Sarah. He's too conservative, and they want a more progressive guy. And that's why this guy Parolin, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's Italian. He's liberal, and he was a very big fan of right hand man. I think he was a Secretary of State to Pope Francis. So he might be the front runner. He's also at that age. I think he's in his early 70s, where it's that perfect sweet spot for popes. There's this one guy, Pizzaballa, who is very, very popular as well, but he's young, and I don't think they want a guy in there for a very, very long time. So uh, Francis is gone, age 88. That's a great life. That's a great life. We can all hope to get to 88. Um, and we hope to see you soon at the big house in the sky. And yeah, Francis. Francis was the first of his name, which is shocking to me. Coincidentally, Pizzaballa is a Franciscan. Just to let you know about that, so that could also help him out. But does anybody know why Francis picked that name? Well, Pope Francis who was the first pope to be named Francis, was very much into the poor, which is something that I think is very, very important. I think we need to help people no matter what. It doesn't matter if we have all the health, all the money, all the gifts of the world. If we can't help people, what's the point? And my my disillusion with our own community, which is the white Christian heterosexual community, white males, is that we don't help each other. We are not a community. I heard Dana White once say that if the only thing you have to say about yourself is that you're white and white greatness or whatever he said, I'll cover that one next time. I'll cover that in the future somewhere, then you have nothing. And that's the dumbest thing in the world to say. But I don't want to get off on topic. But we need to band together because let me tell you, no one is coming to save us. We are going to be like the dodo bird pretty soon. You know, we are considered a disease, and that's got to stop. But let me move on to the man memo. And we're going to stick to Francis, and we're going to stick to something that I'm going through because, as I said, I'm moving out of this apartment. It's just too big for me. I don't need it anymore. For the past week, I have been doing nothing but throwing stuff away, and there is nothing more liberal. There's nothing more liberating, I should say. Oh God, there's nothing more liberating than getting rid of all the shit you don't need. And I'm moving into a much smaller place. I'm just bringing the bare minimum with me: my living room set, my TV, my station here for the podcast writing and drawing that I need, my bedroom set, my clothes, and that's pretty, and Reese, my pooch. That's it. Nice, comfortable one bedroom, nice and easy, and it is so exciting and liberating to get rid of crap and not to be a slave of stuff. And that's what my man memo is going to be about today. Why less is more. And of course, I didn't put that in there, which is dumb. Let me let's do that. Yeah, see, I'm still getting into the whole podcasting thing. Forgive me here. All right, so why less is more? Well, Pope Francis, as we said, was the first of his name, and why did he choose the name Francis as his holy name? Well, Pope Francis chose his name in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi. And if you don't know who Saint Francis of Assisi was, he was a 13th century Italian saint known for his life of poverty, humility, and his love for creation. And he also had a love for animals too. He chose the name after being Pope Francis, I should say, chose the name after Saint Francis after being inspired by Cardinal Claudio Humas, who urged Pope Francis during his victory during his election as Pope. He reminded Francis, "Don't forget about the poor." And this was in the 2013 conclave. Francis saw Saint Francis as a man of peace and a man of poverty and a man who loved and protected creation, aligning with the themes of his papacy. Now, it should be noted that Saint Francis wasn't born into poverty. He came from a wealthy family. And old Francis was also a bit of a wild man. He chased the ladies, he chased a lot of skirt, and he gambled, and he actually wanted to be a warrior, just like his hero, King Arthur. But a religious vision changed all that, and he gave everything up. Much like Jesus, when the rich man came to Jesus and said, "Hey, I want to be a follower of yours," and Jesus said, "Okay, well, give everything up, give up all your possessions, and come with me." And the rich man said, "No, I can't do that." Well, Saint Francis of Assisi, he did that. He gave it all up, and he became a beggar in Rome. He would later go on to found the Franciscan order, which is worldwide today. Francis of Assisi, as Pope Francis did, believed that for a richer life, you must have less. Less is more. Pope Francis didn't live in the papal apartments, which were lavished with all the goodies that anybody could dream of. He also didn't wear the traditional garbs that the popes would wear with the gold and the hats and all that other stuff and the jewels and the diamonds. He didn't wear all that. He had the basic white papal garb. He literally lived the less is more way. He was a minimalist, which is why I respect him so much. and he lived in the guest apartments at the Castel di oh god, I forgot the name of that place, Castel d'Amore or Castel D'Angelo or something like that. And he lived a very minimalist life. Now, let me go on by saying this. I'm not saying that you should throw everything away and become a beggar in Rome. I'm not saying to leave your house and sleep in the streets. I'm not. I'm talking about a mindset, a way of life that prioritizes equality, I'm sorry, that prioritizes quality over quantity, experiences over material things, and intentionality over mindless consumption. We buy so much crap we don't need. And what I'm speaking of today is decluttering your life, decluttering your mind and your soul, and to make room for what truly matters. We live in a culture that's obsessed with the word more, more, a four-letter word, and there are four-letter words that we should ban from our lives. The Stoics would agree if these four-letter words existed for them. But we should ban the word more. More money, more stuff, more women, more clothes. We're bombarded by the messages telling us that we need more to be successful, fulfilled, and accepted. And that's just not true. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how many cars you have or how many, the iPhones or any of that garbage. There's no point to it. And if you've ever been to a funeral, you'll notice that there isn't a U-Haul truck behind that hearse. You ain't taking it with you, pal. This was all a Madison Avenue mirage. It's a never-ending chase that leaves us feeling empty and overwhelmed. Every time you are told you need to buy this, you're being hypnotized. I worked in advertising for many years. There's a lot of psychiatry into that. There's a lot of psychological trigger words that that these companies will use. Um, and the concept of less is more has deep roots in philosophy. Stoics like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of simplicity and focusing on what truly matters. They believed that by detaching ourselves from material possessions and external validation, we could achieve inner peace. That's the most important thing in your life is your peace. And as Seneca put it, it's not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Homeboy was just Seneca's the man. I don't know what else to tell you. The minimalist mindset is not about deprivation or self-denial. It's about prioritizing what's important and letting go of the excess that weighs us down. When you want to buy a new car or when you want to buy a house, you have to chase that, which means that you're putting stress on yourself. You're working longer hours, you're saving, you're putting money away, you're doing all of these things for the future because the future doesn't exist yet. So you're not living in the moment. You're not having these great experiences right now. You could be dead tomorrow, saving up for something that saving up for what, a new house, a bunch of nails and wood. This is all about creating space for what truly matters for you, our relationships, our purpose, our personal growth, and so on. So, how do we embrace the minimalist mindset and start living a richer, meaningful life? Well, like we said, start by decluttering life. For instance, for your physical space, get rid of anything you don't need, anything you don't use, or anything you don't love. That's what I did. I threw away 90% of the crap in my house, and it felt great. Throw away clothes, throw away books that you've read already or maybe uh, aren't relevant to your life. They haven't evolved. They won't help you evolve. Throw away those stupid gadgets, furniture you don't need, anything that's taking up space and adding to a mental clutter. When you're surrounded by a lot of stuff, you're cluttering your life. and you don't have space, you don't have room, you begin to suffocate, and you can't evolve if you're cluttered. Keep only the things that help you develop, that help you create, and give you purpose. Discard of items that are no longer helping you evolve. Secondly, I would tell you to simplify your schedule. If you're overscheduled with things you don't want to do, you must learn to say no. No is a very powerful word. Learn to say more often and prioritize the activities that truly matter to you. You don't have to work overtime all the time. You don't have to work weekends. You don't have to. I would never ever suggest you bringing your work home with you. And I get it. You guys want to. You young guys want to make a lot of money. You want to be financially secure. I'm going to tell you something. You're going to regret it later on. I did that, and it did nothing for me. Yeah, I had money in my pocket and I spent it. That's what I did. Thirdly, our digital lives can be just as cluttered as our physical ones. Unsubscribe to email lists you don't read. Unfollow social media accounts that don't add anything to your life. Set limits to your screen time. Social media is Satan coming through your phone, and he's always busy, as we say. This leads us to focusing on experiences. Experiences create lasting memories that enrich our lives in ways that material possessions could never do. Instead of buying the latest phone, invest in a trip, maybe a concert or a workshop. Learn something new. Maybe if you always wanted to learn the guitar, invest in that. Enriching our lives in ways that I'm sorry, uh, you can maybe even something as simple as going out to dinner with loved ones. It's just spending time with people, socializing, doing things that material things cannot do for you. Next, we have to cultivate gratitude. Let us take time each day to appreciate what we have rather than focusing on what we lack. Gratitude is a powerful cure for the more trap. The bottom line is that less is more. St. Francis of Assisi proved that. Pope Francis, no matter what you may have thought about him, he proved that too. It's a simple concept that can transform your life. And I will tell you that if you ever see, if you've seen the movie, look at the book or look at the movie called Fight Club. It's all about, and the first part of it, of course, it's all about giving up your possessions, not being a slave to your possessions, not being a slave to a job. And that's when you're really free. Now, of course, he was crazy and he created this cult. But regardless of that, the message, the subtext message was beautiful. That book changed the way I looked at things also. By simplifying your schedule and minimizing your time on social media, you'll begin to focus on experiences and gratitude, the most important things. You can break free from the I want more trap and create a richer life with meaning and fulfillment. Less, but better. I hope that helps. And that's the memo. And as we always say, I am going to try to put, as I said before, I'm moving. I'm in the process of moving. Tomorrow's the big day where I have a lot of the big stuff is going, but and I'm doing it with my son and I. But so I'm going to try to do something on this Friday or on Saturday. Maybe on Sunday, I'll try to have another podcast out there for you. But as we said, as we always say, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Be careful out there, my friends. Satan is always busy. Be a man, have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. We'll see you later.